It's Thursday, July 20th, 2017, here in the CSAE offices. I am, as always, Stephen Trustram, CSAE's Manager of Content, and this is Conquering Content, episode number 6, I believe. And today we're going to be talking about how to speak to your audience, how to speak to your correct audience, your desired audience, by targeting the audience that is best suited to your association or to your specific message. So they're not always the same. The people will get confused with that. So the importance of targeting segments within your overall audience is, it cannot be understated. So your overall audience is basically anybody your association or organization should be providing information to, who finds value in the information you provide. And it's not always the people you expect. For example, if you're a trade association, it is likely that you think people involved in that trade are the only people who will be considered your audience. But that's not always true. There are people who are peripherally related to that trade who will find value in the information you're providing. Also, people who are maybe considering joining that trade, who are learning about that trade for other reasons. So the audience is always much bigger than you expect, and when you presuppose what your audience is, you narrow it to the point where you're forgetting everybody who's outside this little space that I'm pretending to make inside my hands. These are the people that you think you're talking to. You think about all these people here, and you end up not providing the information they need because you think you've got everybody targeted properly and effectively. What I mean when I say that is, if you say, well, you know, people in my audience don't use this type of social media, don't use that type of social media, because, you know, that type of social media is for young people, and young people aren't in my audience. But you don't know that for sure. You suppose it because many of the people you interact with are the people who are in particular, your most focused target segment are older, so you presume that there are people following it. So what about the young people who are thinking about going into that particular trade or whatever? And I'm just going to keep using trade association as an example because it's an easy way to just illustrate what my point is. But of course, it is for any type of association, no matter what you're focused on and who your peers are. So you have to keep in mind that, yes, there are effective channels that go out of that core segment. And so, you know, that social media might not be ideal for that core segment you identify. Other types of channels and just as other types of messaging will appeal to that larger audience. And that's something that we really follow through here with the CSAE. So when I came in as content manager, we had 3 core demographics for audience defined. We had growth associations, we had FTNs or young professionals, and we had board members. Now you'll find those 3 groups defined on our homepage, and we provide information that's specific to those 3 demographics. Now, do those 3 demographics, despite being perhaps the most representative of what CSAE is dealing with on a day-to-day basis in our operations, the information we put out, are those the only demographics that really constitute CSAE's audience? Not at all. Absolutely not. So although they are our focus, they are not the extent of our audience. We have people who are interested in dealing with those 3 categories, for example, who are also in our audience. They may not themselves fall into one of those 3 categories, but they have dealings with them, they have relationships with them. So it's in their best interest to know what is in the best interest of those 3 demographics. Thus, our audience is bigger than expected. So just follow that chain of logic within your own association, and your audience is bigger than you expect. So then how do you know how to target somebody with your content? Well, first off, you got to think about what your message is. What is it you're trying to say? If you are saying something that is, for example, in CSAE, we have our association executive members and we have our business members. They do 2 very different things despite there being a relationship between the 2 of them, and despite CSAE dealing with both. We act as a bridge between both categories. But they have very different needs. So we will release information that is focused on the needs of association executives and focused on the needs of business members. And they don't necessarily have the same thing to, there's not, the messaging isn't ideal for both, right? So, for example, if we want to push some kind of promotion that's for business members, the association executives really aren't going to care because they don't exist in that sort of relationship with us. They don't have that kind of business. But it's not to say that someone might not want to, who's an association executive, might not want to know what's going on with business members, specifically if they are, say, looking for a service that a business member offers. So we know what our focus is, but we can't presuppose that that focus acts as a boundary and a limitation. It is not an absolute. So your messaging always has to account for the outliers and the unexpected. But that being said, your messaging still has to gear towards that primary focus. You know who you're shooting for, so shoot for them, but just make sure you're not cutting out those outliers as well. So now that you know who your primary focus is, how you define the message for them. Well, if I am designing a message that's for people who are financially, they're the financial officers in an association, then my message can be more, can use more fiscally related terms. I don't have to assume that everything has to be defined. Here's a term and it means this. I can assume a certain type of language that those people in that target audience will be able to understand and use operatively, and it's the part of their day-to-day. But by doing so, I also have to accept that some of that peripheral audience will kind of be left scratching their heads. So you might want to find a healthy medium. So you target your audience, your message towards your specific audience, and then you find out the best way to get it to them. Are your financial officers best reached by email? Are they on your Facebook page? Are they subscribed to your newsletter? Are these the people who are hanging out on your Twitter account? These are the things you have to find out. And short of asking people, there's really no 100% foolproof way to find out what is the best channel. So there's always going to be a level of experimentation when you're figuring out who to focus with. And the thing about any kind of experimentation with content is you want to make that experiment as educated as possible. So what you then do is you look into the channels by which you release content and see what kind of analytics and metrics you can get. So if it's your web page, you should have some kind of analytics, Google Analytics being the most common, and that'll allow you to break things down into demographics. You can see things, the regions, the ages, the gender. Of course, this is, again, not even 100% because it's presupposing that people have entered that information in so that Google can gather it. It's not the person who put this information in the computer was an old employee, and then somebody, they left the organization, somebody else came in, started using their computer, and demographic information is still loaded into the browser and so forth. So there's always, a give or take, but it's a starting point, and that's what's important. It's a starting point for your experiment. So you take that information and start, releasing different types of messages and different types of channels and different call to actions. The call to action is also very important because it's what is the conclusion to your message. It's what you want that message to drive towards. So if your call to action on your content is a purchase that you're looking for the content reader to do, you have to know how to phrase that call to action to the right member of your audience. Again, a decision maker is you're not going to speak to a decision maker the same way as you are a financial officer. Because the financial officer might just be the person making the recommendation. They sign the checks, but it's not their decision to make the purchase. So that call to action has to be redefined in a way that speaks to the decision maker without all that fiscal mumbo jumbo. But maybe the fiscal person is also looking at it. So it gets really complex, and it's really hard to define in like 15 minutes. But you just have to start experimenting and be cognizant of who you're talking to, and that you have to start thinking beyond the suppositions of your association as to who you're talking to. Also keep in mind that, like I said, maybe your focus is multiple segments simultaneously. It's not just that, you have to be aware of the peripheral market segments that may be paying attention to your content, but maybe you really are targeting two different groups at once. So how best to do that? Do you target them in a single message, or do you release two messages for the same purpose, the same, it's got the same objectives, the same goals, but you release them at separate times with separate messages, with separate languages, it's all different features, different benefits. What works best for you? So really what you have to do after you release content and you start doing these experiments is go back to your analytics, go back to your metrics, see if anything's changing. Are things improving? Are your open rates on your email improving because you're getting more focused on your with your audience, with your targeting segments? Are you seeing a rise in traffic? Bounce rates going down? So being able to refine your target segments isn't just a matter of experimenting with the content. It's really knowing how to distill facts and better educate your experiments through the analytics. Know the metrics you're looking for. Okay, and again, it depends on the channels. Bounce rates are really important for website traffic. Are they just leaving without following through to your call to action? Emails, click-through rates, all that stuff. These are the important things. You have to know what they mean, not just by looking it up and getting the definition off of an online dictionary. You have to know what they mean in the context of the content you're releasing, as well as in the context of the experiments you're running in order to define your audience. So once you get that understanding down, you take that information and pull it back into your experiment and start further defining it. So I know everyone, it's when you release content, it's like, let's get it out, let's save time. And, especially if you've got a subscription list for email, like here's my subscription list, I'm just going to bang it out to everybody, and that's what you do. I've got my once a week email, my once a month newsletter, here's my subscription list, boom, I'm going to send the whole thing. And you can't understand why your click-through rates aren't improving, or they're just really low. Well, maybe you shouldn't be sending it out to your whole subscription list. Your subscription list is your entire audience. It's not segmented. It's not broken. For example, CSAE's, we do segment our mailing list. We've got our business members and our association executives. So there's 2 segments. But how does that break down further? For specific emails, maybe, we find better segments in our business member account subscription list by saying, well, here's the people who have made this type of purchase with us before, and here's the type who have, or this is just further by industry, or further by people who exhibited with us at conference and haven't. By further refining that mailing list down, you're able to step beyond that email blast a week for everybody, that one email newsletter per month for everybody approach. And it's a little bit more work. You might have to do multiple email blasts. But the important part is you're sending one email to each segment. So from your audience's perspective, unless they've got some kind of crossover that you're not double checking, which you should, make sure they appear on one list or the other. From their perspective, they're only getting the one email, even if you're sending 10 or 20 to these different segments. Okay, so you're not going to be spamming, even though from your perspective it looks like you are. But you have the benefit of being able to better refine your message to those target segments. And you will then see, are the click-through rates on all those 20 emails the same? At which point you're like, well, one email list is just as good as 20 because I'm not seeing any difference here. But if you start to see that some go down, some go up, you can start to define, well, this really works for this group. And below ones, it may not be that it works for them. Maybe there's the segment that's been dragging down your average when you were using one subscription list. So again, I'm sorry, it's not to sound confusing, which it is. Just underscore, you have to experiment. You have to start putting into, inline into your content processes these methods and these refinements if you really want to start seeing improvement in how your content targets specific segments and how you identify the segments to begin with. Okay, as always, this is just a brief overview. Obviously, there's a lot more you can go into when it comes to targeting segments, and specifically for individual associations, because everybody's metrics are going to be different. Every content release method is going to be different. Every audience is different. So I keep this as broad as possible. And again, as always, if you have any questions, if you have any follow-up, by all means, write your questions in the comments for this. Email me at steven@csae.com. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you want clarified, if you want us to follow up on something. And please share this video so that others can get the opportunity to watch it, maybe learn something. And, if nothing else, get the opportunity to send me any questions. So it's really raining and dark here in Toronto, and I'm going to go on my lunch, and thankfully I brought it today so I don't have to go outside in the rain. Hopefully it's better weather where you are. Enjoy the week and look forward to the upcoming weekend. Have a good day, everybody.